Hi, everybody. When we left off for Found, we finally have a little bit of a breakthrough. So, these three kids, Jonah, Chip, and Catherine, have gone through a lot. They are trying to figure out some way to kind of keep the momentum going on their investigation when everything's been taken from them. But we have a little bit of hope because a pamphlet comes in the mail and it's for adoption families, people that have been adopted and their families, and only from their area, which could work out. That's where we leave off, or start off. Chapter 24. What if it's a trap? Catherine says. How could it be a trap? Jonah said. It's sponsored by the county. The two of them were rather listlessly playing basketball in the driveway. Mom had shooed them outside. Go, get some fresh air. You've both been so mopey lately. Maybe you're not getting enough exercise. So they were both standing underneath the hoop, but they both kept forgetting to bounce the ball and shoot it. Chip was at a dentist appointment, so they hadn't been able to share the news about the conference with him. The county? Catherine snorted, giving the ball a hard shove. Yeah, and we have a list of survivors and witnesses from the FBI, which is also the government. How do we know that E hasn't set this entire thing up? How do we know the government's not involved in everything? Jonah thought. How do we know they didn't help E tap the phones? How do we know that the time travelers, either JB or E, or both of them, can't manipulate the government whenever they want to? How do we know anything's safe at all? He didn't care anymore. He was going to that conference, no matter what. He was sick of feeling stymied. What he said to Catherine was, I went back and looked at the county website. The conference has been on their schedule for more than a year. If it has to be set up, it'd be hard to set that up as a trap. The county website? Catherine's eyes bugged for a little. You left a trail on our computer. Don't worry, Jonah said. I went back in and I cleared the browsing history, Jonah said. There was a kid at school. He showed me how to do that. He shot the ball with exaggerated swagger, false confidence. The ball sailed through the hoop, but Jonah had the feeling it could have just bounced off just as easy. Just as easy as the conference could actually be a trap. I don't like it, Catherine said, grabbing the rebound. It just seems too convenient. It's for Liston and Clarksville and Upper Tyson. Those are the same places where every one of those kids listed on the survivors list moved to. Right? But it'll be the perfect opportunity to talk to the kids on that list. I'm sure some of them will be there. You do remember those names, don't you, Jonah? Sure, Catherine said. Andrea Crowell, Haley Rivers, Michael Kostoff. She began bouncing the ball in time with the names. Sarah Puccini, Josh Hart, Rusty DeVorel, Anthony Solbers. The ball landed on her foot and began rolling down the driveway, and she waited while Jonah chased the ball. Chip probably remembers other names, or we would remember them if we heard them. Wait a minute, Jonah said, running back. He bounced the ball back to Catherine a little harder than necessary. What do you mean we? Catherine took a shot. The ball swished cleanly through the net. She didn't even look surprised. I mean, I'm going to the conference too, she said, grabbing her own rebound and holding onto it. You and Chip will have to be pretending to pay attention to whatever some of those sessions are called, identity issues for teen adoptees or whatever it is. So you'll need me there to get a chance to talk to the other kids. Jonah didn't want to admit it, but she did make sense. How are we ever going to explain this to Mom and Dad? Easy, Catherine said. She bounced the ball without even looking at it. You tell them you want me to come. Jonah tried to steal the ball from her, but she saw it coming and jerked it out of reach. Now, how in the world am I going to get them to believe that? Jonah asked. You'll figure something out, Catherine said, and she smiled. The librarian thought you were a good actor. When Jonah went back into the house, he saw that Mom had already written 9-3 adoption conference on October 28th, square in the kitchen calendar. Quickly, he grabbed a pen and began inking over the words. He didn't think he'd have to worry about Mom and Dad writing something that JB or E might see. Mom came around the corner just as he had managed to obliterate the last day of conference. Jonah, what are you doing? She asked, startled. I just started doodling, Jonah said. I guess it got out of hand. Mom looked completely bewildered. Even when you were a toddler, you didn't do things like that, she said. Mom, duh, Catherine said from across the kitchen where she was pulling a Gatorade bottle out of the refrigerator. Both Jonah and Mom turned to look at her. Somehow Catherine managed to roll her eyes and gulp down a Gatorade at the same time. She lowered the bottle. Think about it. If Jonah's suddenly all confused and worried about his identity, the last thing he needs to do is see you writing adoption conference in a public place like this. This isn't a public place, Mom said. It's our kitchen. Yeah, but Rachel and Molly are in here all the time, and Chip and all of Jonah's other friends, and my friends, and your friends, and Dad's friends. Catherine made it sound like thousands of people troop through our kitchen every day. Well, there's nothing wrong with the word adoption, Mom said defensively, or with being adopted. Yeah, but Jonah doesn't want it advertised, Catherine said. Show some sensitivity, geez. Mom turned her gaze from Catherine to Jonah and back again. Well, I thought Jonah was capable of speaking for himself, Mom said, with suspicion creeping into her voice. Oh, he is, Catherine said sweetly. Jonah, didn't you have something you wanted to ask Mom about that conference? Jonah shot Catherine a look that very clearly said, I am going to kill you when this is all over. To Mom, he said, yeah. So I was just thinking that Catherine seems to be having so many issues with not being adopted that maybe she should be going to this conference too, so that she can find out what horrors she avoided by getting actual birth parents who are crazy enough to want to keep her. Jonah, that is not how people look at this, Mom protested. At the same time, Catherine said, Oh, could I go? That would be great. Mom squinted at Jonah. Are you being serious? She asked. It was really hard for Jonah to keep a straight face as he assured her, Yes. Catherine wants to go to this conference, and I want her to go too. Could I, please? Catherine begged. Mom frowned. Some days I can't figure the two of you out. Behind Mom's back, Catherine jerked her head at Jonah as if to say, Your turn, close the deal. So, can she come to the conference with us? Jonah asked, trying to keep his eyes wide and his expression innocent. I suppose, Mom said, though I really don't understand why either one of you wants this. Catherine threw her arms around Mom's shoulders. Thanks, Mom, she said. Just think, next year I'll be a teenager too, and then we're going to really confuse you. Chapter 25. The next few weeks seemed to crawl by. Neither Chip nor Jonah got any mysterious letters. Neither they nor Catherine saw anyone else appear out of nowhere or disappear into thin air. In fact, if it weren't for the butterflies that seemed to multiply in Jonah's stomach as October 28th approached, Jonah could almost believe that his life had gone back to normal. He took another social studies test about Mesopotamia and Babylon this time. He attended an informational meeting to find out about the 7th grade basketball tryouts. He went on a Boy Scout camp where it rained all weekend, and 2 kids came down with bronchitis and coughed all night long, until the scout leader gave in and called their parents at 5 a.m. Catherine and Chip stayed obsessed. I figured out why you and Chip were adopted in different states, Catherine announced one night as Jonah was brushing his teeth. Why? Jonah asked through a mouthful of crust. Think about it, Catherine said, loitering around in the bathroom. She spoke in a low voice, as if she was afraid Mom and Dad might hear her from downstairs. There were 36 babies. If Mr. Reardon had dumped all of you in one adoption agency, or even in several adoption agencies in the same city, there would have been too much talk. But if you send one baby to Michigan, 1 or 2 to Chicago, 1 or 2 to Indianapolis, that's just not so noticeable. There could be that many abandoned babies in each city at once. Jonah spit into the sink, bending low so she couldn't see how the word abandoned stabbed at him. I wasn't abandoned, he had to remind himself. I was sent on a plane. But was that better or worse than being abandoned? So do you think Mr. Reardon knows we're all being gathered again? He asked, mostly to distract himself from his own thoughts. Do you think he's the one doing the gathering? Or JB? Or E? Mr. Reardon had all the kids' new addresses enlisted in Clarksville and Upper Tyson. Was he the one who wanted to force poor Daniela McCarthy to live on Robin's Egg Lane? I don't know, Catherine asked, fiddling with a strand of her hair. I'm not even sure Mr. Reardon knew about the survivors list. It was on his desk, Jonah said. Yeah, but JB put it there, Catherine said, not Mr. Reardon. Maybe he was just worried about us seeing the witness list. Jonah jerked his toothbrush back and forth across his teeth with unusual force, and he spit again. Catherine, it's all a big mystery, okay? Maybe we'll never find out any of the answers. Or maybe we should figure out as much as we can now, so when the final pieces fall into place at the conference, we'll know, Catherine retorted. Jonah frowned at Catherine's reflection in the bathroom mirror. The concentration in her gaze made her look like Sherlock Holmes about to solve his biggest case. Meanwhile, the toothpaste on his lips made him look like he was foaming at the mouth. Who's the crazy one now, Jonah thought. Her or me? And that's where we're going to stop.